So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
All right, welcome back, or whoever's here. I think someone's here. I don't know. We're doing another creature. I will show you this person. Oh, it's T Lane. So this person sent a picture of a 3D model, although I was not given any actual file that I could pop into Blender, which would have been nice. But that's okay. We're gonna do what we can here. So yeah, this is the Longacrura, which is obviously a bowbird descendant. So let's see what we get into. Okay, so slide this back over for reference. Move this. Here we go. There you go, T Lane. All right. So I'm going to set Blender to be my active window so that when I hit keys, they do what I want them to. Alright, so this is a little bit of a long boy, so we're gonna give him a little bit of room here. There's not a very well-defined neck, so rather than having anything pinched down, I'm gonna go here and then kind of broaden it out a little bit. Yeah, that'll probably be true. Okay, now I have to worry about how am I going to get these guys, these little things out. So I'm going to need an edge loop here. I'm going to need edge loops here and then one here just so I can symmetrize it. So I don't need these faces. Oops, not vertices. Faces. There we go. Alright, so let's add our mirror. Mirror. Nice. Let's smooth this out a little bit. Alright, so there's also a sort of widening at the lower section. Oh, hey, what's up, Desseldrace? So let's see. Let's extrude out again, and we'll widen a bit. And then, I'm actually gonna go ahead and inset some of this. And then I'm going to do a little trick that I know. Alright, so here's the trick, right? After you inset, if you have this on set this to clipping and merge on your mirror modifier, get rid of the faces that are actually on the far side, then grab them with G, hit X, and just slide them over. Not sure. Oh, no, because we got this thing off. Alright, so that'll be a problem that sometimes if you don't turn on clipping right away, you'll get this. So if that happens, there you go. Select all your faces, select this, deselect this. So then you're going to want to slide it to the left so it connects, and then you don't need these faces, these are mistake faces. Do not want. Alright, then grab these, slide them in. Now they're the same thing. This stuff was a bit too wide, so we'll pull it in. There we go. That's a little bit better. Alright, so now this loop, though, doesn't need to be this close. And this one can come out a little bit. Alright, there we go. That's better. Morning. It's morning for me. I don't know what it is for everybody else, but it is morning for me. Give it a little bit of rounding. By the way, the thing I do there when I kind of pull it along to give it a rounded edge, that's double tapping G, slides edge loops. So it ultimately tends to have the effect of rounding out very simple geometry, or with very complex geometry, you can actually use it to somewhat preserve the shape while moving an edge loop. So that's a handy little. It's a handy little thing that they don't always tell you in your early days using Blender. So, and I'm actually using it here to get a shape that will let me extrude the mouth bits. Alright, so we also have a thick sort of section where the shoulders are. So I'm gonna select that. Okay, so a tricky thing is the scale operators don't work the way you would normally want them to when mirror mode is on. So it's a little tricky. I'm gonna pop it out here, scale a little bit. I also want this loop here to come in a little bit, so I'm gonna scale it on the X down a little bit, grab it a little bit. Okay, so we have a little bit of a bulge here. So, yeah, that'll work. I'm just trying to take a look at the creature and make sure that I have a decent sense of how it's proportioned and whatnot. Okay, and then right above the shoulders we have this strange little fin projection. It's actually pretty well explained in the file. Oh, hey, what's up, man? We are modeling alien creatures today. Oh, come on. Here we go. Alright, so it gets fairly thin about midway up. So we're gonna... come on. Keep not having the Blender as the active window. We're just gonna scale it down. We're gonna seriously come in on the x-axis. I'm actually gonna do that on this loop too. It's not very thick. Actually, I'm just gonna bring it in on the x-axis. There you go. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So it extends taller than the actual body is, so it's going to go all the way up to about here. It's going to flare out a little bit and then come back on the edge. Alright, but it's also got a little bit of a curve to it. Whoops. So, this kind of thing going. I'm going to put another guy here. It's pretty close. I'm going to put a cut through here so I can take just these guys and round it out. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. Looks a lot less PG. You know, just wait. It'll turn into a less of a not PG-13 looking sort of thing. That's all I got. Okay. All right, so let's get the legs going. Okay, so they extend from a pretty good distance up, so I'm actually just going to extrude them right from that middle of the body. So, gonna get them there. All right, they should not be going forward yet. It takes a little while before they get to go forward. That looks pretty close, but they start coming this way. Okay. We're also going to smooth these out so they don't look like boxes, but that's for later. Alright, and then last but not least, okay. Now let's smooth this out a little bit. Whoops. There we go. Moving out legs of an alien monster. Alright, do they look boxy still? A little bit. Let's see what we can do with smooth vertices. That help? Ah, that actually did help. So we'll do the same here. Whoops. Smooth vertices. Alright. Alright, but then grab them. Scale it down on the z-axis. Getting a loop cut in here. Okay, now I don't want to have to repeat that whole thing. So, I'm just not gonna. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go like this, this. Grab these. Oops. Set this to 3D cursor. SY -1. Boom. Alright, that works. So then I need to get them more or less lined up here. Okay. Get rid of those faces. And here we go. So I'm going to turn off the subsurf modifier for this. And the button I'm using to create these faces is F for face. Look at that. None of that nonsense. Now there is going to be a problem with the normals. So you can see where there's weird shading. If I switch it to smooth, it'll be even more obvious. Yeah, see that? Ugly. That's okay though. We go to let's see. A to select everything. Then we go to I think it's vertex. Oh, they changed where it is. So I can't remember exactly where it is anymore. Normals, there it is. Okay, so we're just gonna recalculate outside. Oh, look, it's fixed. Yep. Keep your normals consistent. It is possibly the best advice that anyone can give you for anything other than the most beginner of Blender work, basically. Keeping your normals. Yeah, keeping your normals consistent is extremely important. Actually, I'm going to go to sculpt mode real quick. I don't normally sculpt mode before I actually do my actual sculpting, but I think it's warranted here because I want to flatten this out. I don't really care that much about the underlying geometry. It's gonna be fine. Like, it'll work. It'll be good. And then I'm actually gonna get the draw, and I'm gonna make this end a little bit more convex, I guess. Hey, Lord of the Leviathans, you got here on time. Well, on time-ish. Alright, so then we flip back and we can see, yeah, okay, I don't know exactly how the smooth operator moved each vertex, but I don't really care. So, we're good there. I do not like this, though. This quad is giving me nightmares, so we're gonna turn it. So actually, I'll show you why. So, when you have a quad that has like these acute angles here, and then followed by more than 180-degree internal angle, Blender isn't always sure what to do with it. So avoid those if at all possible. If you have to, split them into triangles. I prefer not to. In this case, it's an easy fix. I just double tap G and slide this vertex up, and it doesn't really affect too much the overall shape of the model, and yet we're still good. Okay, let's get to that mouth. We got a mouth going here. So what we want is this face here, and this here. So we're gonna extrude those. Ooh, it's already starting to look pretty good. It's actually, yeah, that's not too bad. One thing is extruding faces that are not directly flat, that intersect with the mirror line. They're gonna flare outwards, just because that's the way their normal is actually facing. Because extrude always automatically extrudes along normals, so you gotta keep that in mind. Okay, so we'll change that back to median points. Don't need that. All right, so then we're gonna extrude down a little bit. Yeah, okay, I like that. Now the original model actually has this distal end of this rostrum pretty darn thin, so we're gonna flatten it out a little bit. It also has it fairly rounded, so I'm gonna double tap G to slide this back. That kind of moved the subdivided surface a little far back, so I'm just gonna grab this going to set this to normal, and then figure out which normal is the normal I want. Oh, none of them. Great. That's awesome. Whatever. Let's go with global. I'll just eyeball it. All right, that should be pretty good. Okay, now the little teeth guys actually have a very round cross section, which means you want this to be smooth. I'm sorry, you want it to be squarish. So we'll F3 smooth vertices. Super do it, but what I'm gonna do is go to orthographic side view, get this so it actually looks like a direct square, or like a plane. Then I'm just gonna manually get these by SX0, SX0, SZ0, SZ0. Now, it is not necessarily a cube, but it is definitely a rectangle. And I'll just slide this actually I'm gonna slide it from this side, slightly over, so it's a little bit more even, and there you go, it's cuboid enough. But then I don't actually want this angle, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna angle it the way I actually do want it. Okay, we're gonna come up. We're gonna shrink. And we're gonna do it one more time. Bring it way down so we get a nice little pointy guy. And then this angle here is a little funny, like it's a bit sharp, so I'm gonna, yeah, that's better. And then do we have a sharp enough upturn? I don't think so. So what I'm gonna do is grab all of, come on. Twist it, bring it up and out. Okay, that looks pretty good. Oh, unidentified leviathans here. What up? Oh, look at all these people showing up to watch my silly little stream. Nice, it's heartwarming. Let's turn this off so I can see what the heck's going on. Alright, we're gonna use this as our oral cavity. Go to wireframe. Alright, so one thing is, there's always a sort of give and take as to how much detail you want to put into some things like internal anatomy, like its gut or something. My plan is actually just to paint it black in here, so if you look down in there, you won't see anything. But you know, look, unidentified leviathan. We are making a creature that was submitted for my Spec Evolution project called Longacrura. And it's gonna end up looking somewhat like this. This is the original concept art I was sent. So, yeah. Which actually means I need to get a an eye stalk in here. So first I'm actually gonna just insert the eyes. So mesh with a UV sphere. Get it about where I want it. And it's about the right size. I want it to be about here. Alright, so that's a bit too far away, isn't it? Yeah, there you go. So then I'm gonna find, where do I have a place that actually suits that? This right here is pretty good. That point is centered like right on the eye. So we hit eye to inset. Okay, grab, well, here we go. These edges, bring them right on in. Okay. We're gonna smooth it. That's what I want. Smooth these out. Okay, let's grab these in a little bit more. Shrink that. Shrink that. We're actually going to do it. Extend that a little bit. Okay. And here, and then we're going to right there along the normal, and I'm actually going to switch it to normal. Let's see, flatten it out, expand it a little bit, bring it up, inset it a little bit, bring it back. Okay, it went crazy on that x-axis, so we're gonna have to bring that under control. We're gonna switch this back to global. And we're gonna, oops, y-axis. I can't even tell which axis is which. I'm a professional blender user. I'm not a professional. I mean, I guess kind of I am, but not really. Alright, so this is also a little bit too close, and it's making this eye right here way too sharp. We'll bring it up here. I'm going to shrink this down a little more. Okay, I'm going to also shrink this down. No, I can't shrink it. If I go like this, graphic mode. Put down a little bit more. Let's expand this a little bit. Okay. Yeah, that should be good. And I'll probably thicken this up a little bit later. Actually, I can probably just do it now. Yeah, there we go. That's not too bad. It's a little bit far away from the eye, though. So what I'm going to do is grab some vertices and just manually poke them into place. Actually, I shouldn't say poke, because poke is actually an operator in Blender. It's a weird one. It's sort of like inset, but on a face-by-face basis. The only thing I've ever seen it used for is like if you have to make something with a lot of like a studded texture. Yeah. Oh, I'm almost out of water. Oh no! Alright, we can give the eyes a mirror. So that way they show up on either side. I'm also gonna double tap R, turns the rotate tool into like a trackball. So I'm just gonna double tap R and just kind of hide away the triangle fans. If you can avoid it, don't have your triangle fans showing if you have an object with triangle fans. Yeah. So unidentify the Leviathan. Don't worry too much about the jaws right now, because the musculature is something I really define when I'm sculpting. This is just roughly blocking out the body shape of the creature. Alright, but we need the anterior gill frond, because that's a key feature of bowbird descended organisms. So, anterior gill frond, here we come. Alright, we're going to shrink it down a little bit here. Flatten it out a little bit. Alright, there we go. So then we're gonna, and see what I mean about how if you just extrude from something that intersects the mirror point, it flares. So the farther out I go, the more it'll flare. I can demonstrate. So, there you go. Hit E, bring it way out, and yeah, see, it keeps getting thicker. But you just gotta know that, and then you just bring it back under control. Oh, and I don't want it facing down that much, so we're gonna scoop that up, rotate it. There we go. We're also going to, not that. Grab this guy, rotate him, bring him up a little bit. There we go. Now, it's not clear how many gill fronds are in the original. I'm not sure it matters. Oh, hey, what's up, Miguel? Yeah, get more water. I will in a bit. I'm still got a bit. And the ice is melting, so. But yeah, I will be getting more. Sorry, I had to type a thing. Oh goodness, people keep sending me things. Sorry, some of this is work related, so I gotta actually check it. Alright, there we are. Sorry. Well, Tegan, I would point out that Jesus Christ is not actually his name. No one would have called him that. So let's just see. Let's find something that looks like a good density. looks pretty good. Okay. And then we're gonna select these faces, and actually, this might be where the poke tool works. No, I don't like it. Alright, we're just gonna go through and individually inset them, and actually, you know what I can do? This will be even easier. Median origins, boom, 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 boom. Or individual origins. Where is it? Mesh. Vertex? Rude? Where'd it go? Like, it's been like a year and I'm still not used to the new layout for everything. Extrude. Individual faces. There we go. And I just bring them out along the x-axis. And since I have it set to individual origins, I can make them all move the way I want. Okay, so we'll bring out the fronds here. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this like middle one. Oh, you know what? That's not going to work. So select everyone except the outer ones, and then I'll just go around deselecting as I go. We'll turn on this guy so it'll be easier. So turn off portrait editing. Alright. Bring them out. Deselect, bring them out. Deselect, bring them out. Deselect, bring them out. There we go. Alright. That'll work. I actually want it a little bit higher up on the body though. It starts too far down. That's an artifact of how I laid out my my mesh. So that's my fault, but it's still something I think I can fix. So let's grab these guys. Okay. Bring it on up. You know. Bring it on up. Alright, now I am actually running out of water. So I'm gonna be right back. In the meantime, look at this nice picture. Oh, Deadly Dakota, you came in just as I'm about to grab some. Don't worry, it's not gonna take long. I'm just gonna go pour some water in a glass and maybe drop 2 ice cubes in it. So. Alright, I am back. See? Wasn't long. Yeah, hydration is important, especially, actually, did I drop 3? I don't remember. So the thing is, I have like a certain volume of ice that I like in my iced water, and I usually drink it faster than the ice melts, so what I do is I actually just add however many ice cubes it's going to take to get me just over that amount, and then that's what I go with. So if it's 1 ice cube, it's 1. If it's 4, it's 4. If it's 9, it's 9. So, alright, we'll move this back over. Okay, where were we? This nose is still too broad, and I call it a nose, but I really shouldn't. Whatever. So, there we go. That's a little better. We'll bring it, no. I think that's pretty good. It's not exactly what I'm seeing in the reference, but I mean, whatever. Miguel, you should want to drink water. Water is good for you. Water is amazing. It is how you live. You would be dead if not for water. Alright, so I'm gonna do Alright, we're gonna shrink these down. We still have individual origins selected. We're gonna shrink them all, especially on the y-axis, actually. So first we're gonna get them nice and square looking. Yep. And we're gonna... Actually, then I'm gonna subdivide each one. I'm hitting Control R, by the way. I'd like to let you guys know what hotkeys I'm using. In case you guys want to try some of this out yourselves someday. Never know. Never know. Alright, so that will keep the taper being a little bit, a little less smooth. I want the taper to start a little bit more abruptly. See, there you go. So you got this distal taper, right? But it shouldn't have the same profile the whole way. At least I don't think it would. It would. That's me though, right? So I've had for flying things, with your question, man, I have the water hopper, which it can't sustain flight indefinitely, but it can burst out of the water for a little bit. I'm actually probably not going to be accepting like fully fledged flyers for, certainly not for this stage, and I'm not sure about the next stage. I'll have to consult with some people. I'll probably consult with Erica. I might consult with Jackson Wheat. You know, some people who are pretty good on the zoology and whatnot. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is bring this up. And what I'm also going to do is put my cursor, not active, to world origin. By the way, Shift S brings up this cursor wheel. Then I'm going to add a plane that I'm probably not going to keep, but I'm going to do it just so I can see where the feet barely poke through. So I'm also getting that the back feet are actually not at the same level as the front feet. That's the problem. So, turn off individual origins, turn on median points. SZ, 0. Now they're all at the same point. Okay. So, GZ. Alright, that's pretty good. And then I'm going to do, I think it's Alt-G. Nope. Control-G? Oh, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm going to apply the location, which basically takes that object and puts its origin to the world origin. So now it stands on the ground wherever I place it. So if I place my cursor on the surface, like let's say I add a mesh cube, boom, scale it up. Hey, look, that thing's on there. If I click these guys, Shift S, selection to cursor, standing on the cube. See? Awesome. Yeah. So, okay, there you go. Oh, Phage is here. What up? Oh, I'm glad that you're at least lurking, man. I've actually kind of been wondering. I was like, oh, I haven't seen Phage in a while. But I'm glad that you're around and you're even if it is just lurking. Like, you know what? There's nothing wrong with lurking. I lurk all the time. Like I'm a mod on what do you call it? FTFE's channel, right? But I cannot keep up with that chat, and his other mods are so much better than me. Half the time I'm just lurking there. So, you know, nothing wrong with lurking. So I added a little bit of distal taper with some proportional editing there. Not much. I feel like it really shouldn't do a whole lot of distal tapering, but yeah. Oh yeah, filter globes have been great, man. People love those things. Yeah, they are. I think they're some of the most popular organisms in the project, by a decent degree, actually. Yeah. Okay, so the next question is, how do I want to do the gill filaments? Because part of me wants to be lazy and just use a hair system. Yeah, it's really not worth the trouble of adding all the extra geometry to get little frontlets in here as actual geometry. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply the mirror. Okay. Now it's time for UVs, which everybody's favorite, right? Actually, we don't even need this modifier. Okay. Oh, actually, we shouldn't have done the UVs yet. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. This is where we'll do the UVs. It's still in half. All right. So, go. UVs are a pain in the butt. They're necessary if you want to have textures drive anything, which, I mean, obviously I do. But they're so annoying. Okay, that's a pretty good UV. That should work. This. Well, it doesn't matter if I select that. It's going to be a UV island anyway. This and this and this and this. Alright, those should be pretty good. I want UV seen here and here. Okay. Also gonna want one here. And then we're going to have one around every single one of these guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in, go here, switch to vertex mode, and do... Ah! There we go. Alright, switch back to edge mode. Should be pretty good. Alright, so we're also going to want go back to solid view. Here, 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 here. You get the picture. Alright, so Control E, mark scene, boom. Now those things will be I don't know why these are all seams. I don't need these to be seams. Or this really need to be seen. So we're going to Control E, clear seam. You also don't want too many seams, right? You need to have like you just can't go overboard with it. All right. Oh hey, well we'll be happy to have you back, man. Remember to hit like, man. Everybody hit like. Oh, I forgot. I need a scene here, and yeah, that'll be important. Oops. The mark scene. There you go. Mark that scene. And actually, I'm going to want this as a separate island. Scene. Kind of stupid to have that as a full island, but whatever. It's kind of necessary. Okay. That should work. Alright, let's go to the UV editor. And unwrap. See what we get. Alright, it's appropriately tiny. So, like, you can go deep down the rabbit hole on making sure that your UVs are absolutely perfect. I do not have time for that right now. I'm basically looking just for this, right? This is an overlap. Do not want overlaps. Oh, turn off proportional. You do not want overlaps. Anytime there's an overlap, get rid of it. Overlaps are not okay. Because what it means is that two different faces will have the same coordinates in the UV plane, and so you can't differentiate them when you're painting textures. That is a problem, because how are you going to get them? What if you need them to be separate colors, or what if you need them to be different on the on your normal map, or something like that? You can't. You'll get weird artifacts when you try. I also don't like how close some of these things are, so I'm going to move some things a little bit away just to space them out, because it's nice to give things a little breathing room, because when you subdivide UVs, they interact strangely on the UV plane, basically. And so if you give them a little breathing room, you can help fix weird artifacts that come out when you're like texture painting a subdivided mesh, which I plan to do. So yeah, just give them a little bit more breathing room. And Why have the tail crest? I don't understand the question. Maybe I'm not clear on what you mean by tail crest. You don't really need to be there. You can go here. I don't really care that much that you're getting crazy like that. Kind of poke over here. It's not that. There you go. Come out over here. You do that. Alright, that's probably good enough. Yeah. 1 second. I'm gonna quickly go to a black screen, unfortunately. Longacrura. Okay, and we're back. Sorry about that. You forgot to put your snake back into her tank last night and found her chilling in a flower pot on our porch. Whoops. Well, I'm glad she didn't run away entirely. Yeah. HM! Hey, what's up, man? Okay, so, come on. There we go. Alright, so we're going to apply the mirror. So the reason I do the UVs before I get rid of the mirror modifier by applying it, so it's not getting rid of it, it's just making it real. If you have a symmetrical creature, right? This right here, you can see it has this mapping point on the UV map. Right, that's where that thing lives on the UV plane. But the mirror image of it... Oh, that's the mirror. Come on, what am I looking for? That's it. The mirror image, right? Same location. This one, same location. So when I texture paint, I only have to texture paint over one side, plus it doubles the effective size of my texture maps. So if I have a 2K texture, I can get as much definition out of it as I would out of a 4K texture if it's mirrored. And since the creature is symmetrical, there's not really a great reason not to mirror it. And if you really need some asymmetry later on in your texture painting, you can apply that with a separate UV map so that you don't have to have all of your textures be full 4K textures just to get that 4K detail. So yeah, it is it's the way to be. And actually, now that I notice it, this thing is weirdly shaped with the taper, so I'm gonna bring that up, bring that in. Care about these lines, I care about these lines. And then bring that in a little bit more. So it actually sort of has a taper that makes a little bit more sense. Alright, so this is what we're looking at for the subdivided mesh. This is subdivided twice. It's a pretty good basis to start sculpting from. But we can't sculpt from a subdivision modifier, so we're gonna have to do a multi-res. Multi-res, subdivide, subdivide, divide, subdivide. Alright, there we go. Alright, so it is time for some sculpting. Oh, and Blender's, or not Blender, YouTube's giving me that warning that, hey, your bitrate's a little bit low, so hopefully that does not cause interruptions. So far I haven't dropped any frames, so just a heads up. Yeah, it's a thing. So the size I was given is that it's going to be 2 centimeters tall and 7 in length, but that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So I'm just going to go with I'm going to put from the feet to the top of the head. I'm just going to make that be about 9 centimeters, and I'm just going to scale the rest of it and just go with that. So, yeah. So one of the things that you guys gotta know is if you submit something and I like it, and I think most of it works, but there's some little tweak, I'm probably just going to make the little tweak. I might give you a heads up, but ultimately I'm sort of the director of the program, so it's like, if you don't like my tweak enough that you want to withdraw your creature, then okay, I guess, you can withdraw your creature. But that's how it goes. Alright, so let's go from object mode to sculpt mode. Alright, here we go. So I need some little body segmenty things, right? Okay. Alright, so let's, oh goodness. I keep forgetting that I have to switch the active window. I hate that. Okay. Alright, so we get some segmentation looking stuff going on down here on the body. Now, right now I only have it subdivided 4 times, and that's not where it's going to stay. This is just to rough out some of the aspects here. Get some of like the muscling and whatnot. Okay, let's give it a little bit of a... Maybe there's some supportive tissue here that things hang off of. Not quite a spine, and these aren't ribs, but get the idea. Okay, and then there's some big beefy muscles right around here. Beef that out a little bit. It seems like they're concentrated dorsally. Keep them mostly on the dorsal side for bulking that out. That's also true here. It actually has almost like bunched up shoulder muscles up here. Have that going. And yeah, it comes in real big here. Okay. Ciao, Dessel. Have a good day, man. Have a good day at getting stuff done. Alright, let's bring this in a little bit. I'm actually going to subdivide again now. Alright, there we go. So now let's get a little bit of a ring here. Imagine there's like some muscle there that kind of helps direct the eye stalk, which way it's going to go. This thing, I'm going to give it movable eye stalks, because you know what? I can. No one's going to stop me. Also, let's give it some definition around the mouth. Make this a little bit bigger. So the mouth actually has like some muscles that'll help it close in on prey after they've been grabbed. That's actually in the concept art I've got, so we're going to give it a little bit of here, I'm going to control here to sink in a little bit. So we'll have some rays and some sunken areas near the mouth. I'm going to go a little bit farther back. I'm going to tweak. The eyes look like sausages, funnily enough, I guess. Yeah, so my internet's doing that thing again. I'm going to have to call my cable provider if that happens once more. I say cable provider, but I don't have cable. I just have the internet because I don't ever plan on paying for cable because, as far as I'm concerned, cable is worthless. Like, it has like nothing for me. I cannot imagine why I would ever pay for cable. Like, I've even gone on record as saying like, hey, if and when I stop being single, if my significant other wants cable, they can pay for it out of their own money that they earn from whatever it is that they do to earn money. I'm not having my money go to that. So, yeah, your mom wasted. For for the longest time, my grandmother had cable, and I do not know why. We finally got her set up with like access to Netflix and my dad's iTunes account, which has a bunch of movies on it. And yeah, we finally eventually got her to stop spending so much of her money on cable, because it's not like, you know, she was, like, she's still alive, but she's now in a different living situation than living on her own and being able to make a choice about paying for cable, basically. But yeah, it's not like she had plenty between like her husband's pension and her savings and whatnot. Like, she wasn't, you know, oh hey, I'm back again. This is fun. I'm really sorry about this, guys. I mean, F in the chat for my internet, right? Oh, subdivide again? Maybe. Usually don't go much past 5, though. Yeah, thanks for the Fs. Oh, man. Okay. So doing these columnar muscles, it's super tedious. It's not my favorite thing to do. But I put them in the original bowbird, and so I would actually probably object if someone tried to make a bowbird species that didn't have these, unless it was extremely derived. So my fault. Like the basic creature design for bowbird was Beethoven, right? But no relation. But he basically modeled up some little monster in Spore. If you've ever heard of that game? And he would like, do this. And I was like, all right, now how do I translate this into a thing that actually makes sense as a biological entity? And yeah, it wasn't super easy because I didn't want it to have like an internal skeleton like an Earth tetrapod, which is what it kind of looked like in Spore. So sorry, I just took a break to take a sip of water. It is hot here. Actually, what is the temperature here? Let's find out. Oh, it's only 101. It's only gonna get up to 105 today. Okay. So it's actually pretty mild for here. Let's see. Oh, hey. Oh, God. I don't want to. Shut up. Weather channel. I hate you. Like, oh, turn off your ad blocker. No. All right, so let's see. Thursday high 101, Friday high 97, Saturday high 98, 101, 104, 107, 108, 109, 107, 105. Have we gone past the 110s here? Are we done with 110s for now? Look, I live in the city in the United States that has the highest peak temperatures, and it is the second hottest average temperature city. Okay, the only city in the U.S., major city at least, with a higher average temperature than Phoenix, Arizona is, what is it? It's Tampa, Florida. Is it Tampa or is it Orlando? I think it's either Tampa or Orlando. I can't remember. And the only reason they have a higher average temperature is because it gets colder here at night than it does there. That's it. We have the highest peak temperatures. 120 is a normal temperature to hit in the summer on at least a couple days. And you know what? I kind of like that, because my knee really likes hot weather, because I got the bad knee. And like, I injured it before I got in the Navy, and the Navy did not help. It tore my knee up in the long run. So, what are you gonna do? Yeah. Not fun. Actually, there were times where I actually had to get like a little bit of extra painkillers because being rough on my knee. So yeah. Let's see. F for knee. Yeah. Yeah. F for the ligaments in my knee is basically what we're going for there. Dapper needs some new ligaments. Yeah. I had my knee bent sideways one day. That was fun. Yeah. Good times. Good time. No, not really. No. You know what? I'm just gonna grab this. Grab it. Just try to make this work. Yeah, that'll kind of do you. Put shape here. Put that down. Yeah, that'll work. To actually have a foot there, right? Welcome back, man. 27C here. So we can get to 45C here, Paige. I know I was given Fahrenheit because I live in the US. What can I say? I use Celsius for like if I want to look up like the melting point of like iron or something like that, then yeah, I tend to use Celsius. But when it comes to weather, I default to Fahrenheit. Actually, apart from just being raised in it, I actually do have one part about Fahrenheit that I actually does make me prefer it for things like weather, and that is that it's easier to tell subtle differences, right? So like, there's a difference between like 57 degrees Fahrenheit and 55 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's harder to express that easily in Celsius because you have to like give like decimal point numbers, and no one likes reporting things in decimals, and it's annoying. So yeah, like there's a huge difference between like 25 and 26 Celsius compared to say the difference between like 50 and 56 Fahrenheit. Like it's enormous. So I don't like having that kind of I like having more granularity to it. Like if Celsius went from 0 to 1,000 for the boiling point of water, I would be much more open to using it to report how the temperature is outside. But yeah, it's my one thing with Celsius is I'm just like, it's not finely graded enough, right? And here I'm just literally just making texture just for visual interest, because people like having there's gonna be a there, you know? Like, you gotta have something that draws the eye. And actually, we're gonna switch to a matte cap here. So, matte caps are handy. My sort of go-to is this one. And that might just be because I got used to it from using ZBrush. Which, basically until 8.3 in Blender, I would have said is superior sculpting tool. But that's not really the case anymore. I think Blender has come a long way between the 2.7 series and the 2.8 series, with sculpting in particular. In fact, for one of the new releases, there's a guy working on a cloth brush that will simulate through sculpting cloth. So you don't actually have to do a cloth sim and bake it or anything. You can just sculpt it right in automatically. And that sounds pretty darn awesome. Yeah, I imagine that will be quite effective. I've seen some demos of it, and it looks amazing. So that's one of the things I like about Blender is like there are people who use the program and they can code and whatnot, and they're just like, you know what, I would like to see this feature in Blender, so I'm just gonna make it, and then I'm gonna submit it, and then maybe it'll just get added in, and then everyone can use it, and then it'll just be in Blender. So yeah. So here's the thing about the Imperial system, right? The Imperial system is, why is this so, what's my strength here? Oh, my strength is super low. Let's bring that strength up. So, okay, here's the thing about the metric system, right? The metric system was designed, we actually are going to go down to another, no, no. There we go. Oh, crap. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Oh, really? You're gonna be a jerk like that to me when I subdivide again? F. Ugh, F in the chat for my sculpture. Undo the subdivision. I can. Can I not? I should be able to. Oh, come on, don't do this to me, Blender. Why do you have to do this to me? Alright, fine. I guess I'm just gonna have to deal with it. Gosh darn it. Fine. Why do you do this to me? So, okay. So here's the thing about the Imperial system. It was designed for the scales and numbers that humans find easy and convenient, right? So the reason that there's a lot of 12s in the Imperial system, like why are there 12 inches in a foot, right? Why do we have things like dozens and weird things like quarts and cups and things? But well, here's the reason, right? It's nice to be able to divide something into thirds or halves or 4 quarters, right? All of which you can do with the number 12. 12 has a lot of factors, so it became pretty popular in measurement systems. Because you could say, okay, this table is 3 feet long or 3 feet tall or whatever. I want chairs that are 1/4 that size, and you don't actually have to do that much math to figure that out, as long as you know what the factors of 12 are and how they're going to work in this particular case. And the size of the units, again, Fahrenheit is a bit of an exception. That was just made up because some guy wanted to do some easy math on body temperature. But so the same thing is true for the scale of things. Like a mile was actually based on a unit of distance that armies would march. So they had it calculated out, like, okay, how many miles per day can we go at a forced march? How many miles per day can we go at a normal pace where we're just, kind of walking without tiring people out? Stuff like that. So it was actually based on the human body and how it moved and whatnot. It's a gigantic pain in the butt. This is almost so bad that I kind of want to reset, but whatever. Just deal with it. So yeah, there are actually legitimate reasons to prefer the Imperial system over the metric system. Now, the metric system was basically made to make science easier, and that's great. But there's the argument to be made that what I do in my everyday life isn't always scientific. I shouldn't need to have science be the thing that determines what units I measure my flour in. Like why would that be what's easy for a scientist to do in a lab? Why would that be what determines how I measure my flour or my sugar when I'm trying to make a cake or something, right? Now you can also make the argument that, hey, units are just arbitrary. Sure, they are. Fundamentally, a unit of any value will be just as good as another one as long as you're consistent with it, right? But, like I said, there are convenient volumes. Like, a liter is not a convenient volume for most things. I don't want to drink a liter of most things at a go. I'm gonna turn the strength down a little bit. But like, you know, something smaller, like a few cups in the Imperial system, that might be reasonable. I want to drink that. So yeah, I do not like the people who are like, oh, the Imperial system is trash. It's not trash. It is more difficult for science. It is easier for a lot of things. It's easier for cooking. It's often easier for doing things like making furniture and stuff like that. So there are advantages to both, and neither one is just worthless. Oh, come on. Right. Your little hole. Oh, I got more of them? Confused normals in here. That was a disaster, man. So. Although I actually might leave some of these lines in here. They look kind of interesting from a visual standpoint. Like, why are they there? What's the point? I don't know. Something happened. We're just smoothing all these muscles out though, but they're actually kind of jaggedy, so I don't mind. I was actually thinking that when I was making that they seemed kind of jaggedy. But yeah. Drink 326 milliliters of whiskey. See, that's one of those things. It's like, just give me an ounce and a half. Like, seriously. Don't make me measure my whiskey in freaking milliliters. My goodness. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, right? Like, I don't want to drink 326 milliliters of whiskey. Even if you say, like, oh, 325 or, like, 350, like, it's still an inconvenient, stupid number. Just call it an ounce and a half. Seriously. So, yeah, I am... Like, actually, in Phase 3, I'm probably going to actually enforce what do you call it? Metric system only for size measurements. Just to keep it consistent, and because that's what most people are using, and because the tone of the project is somewhat scientific, right? We're supposed to be fairly serious, science-y types on this kind of project. So, yeah, it's probably going to be unenforced. You have to give me the metric numbers. You can give me the imperial numbers if you so choose. However, if you do not give me the metrics, your creature's not making it. Sorry. So, now one thing about that is there's going to be a submission form for next time. You're going to have to fill out the submission form so that I can have these things be formatted similarly. And there's also going to be a style guide, right? So you're going to need to submit things following the style guide with the submission form. That's going to be a requirement for next time. And that's not because people have been like bad at this or anything. It's just because it's very hard to write standard sort of what do you call it? Like, it's been difficult to keep everything ordered and keeping the entries seeming consistent when people have like very different submissions just from a textual standpoint. So there's going to be a style guide. There's going to be required sections, like you have to have this section, this section, and this section. There will be optional sections, so like you don't have to have them, but if you have ideas for this kind of thing, this is where it goes. There's also going to be requirements about formatting and capitalization and italicization and stuff like that. So if you do not have it properly formatted, I will bounce it back. Because it's becoming... I find myself spending a fair bit of my time having to go through and edit people's text so that it is sufficiently correct to go on the World Anvil. And even then, I still miss things. Like, 4 or 5 times people have come to me and like, oh hey, you got a typo here, and I look and it's not my typo. It's a typo I missed. So yeah, there's my inner grammar Nazis are just going to come out a little bit. Like, I'm not going to be like your college English professor or anything, but there's also going to be some stuff like you have to have a fairly scientific tone. So like you're not going to be able to use things like the word butt to refer to the posterior end of your organism. And to use words like, you know, anterior, posterior, dorsal, ventral, lateral, distal, proximal, medial, oral, aboral for creatures that you need to use that for, like filter globes. Use oral, aboral for them. But all of that will be spelled out. There's going to be a submission guideline thing, right? So there's going to be the submission form and a guideline. Read the guideline before you use the submission form, and you should be just fine. Shouldn't have any problems. Because I don't anticipate there being any problems, so. That was a bit overboard there. Tone that down a little bit. So yeah, there you go. Please make a template. It makes my life easier for making the background. Yeah, I'm going to make a template. Put little holes in the top jaw before. What would the little holes do? Alright, well, now that nightmare is mostly recovered from. That was terrible. I do not even know why it did that, honestly. I don't know that I've ever had that happen before. Let's give some muscle definition down here. Visual interest. Stuff going on down here. Neck type muscles. Support down here. Going here too, huh? Alright, let's add some clay strips, see if that'll help figure that out. No, not really. Ugh, crap, I hate this. I hate that happened. It's leaving such a stupid mark on this crap. Yeah. No, I appreciate the humor. There's a certain amount of levity that you can have, right? Like, if you read like biology papers and like stuff like that. I'm gonna also go to where's front faces only? Fast time to use form only used to use show mask. Options under here. Front faces only. I do not like the having not front faces only, especially in thin areas. It gets weird. I don't know why it's the default. I prefer to always have it checked off when I remember that it's a thing. Alright. I'll give it a little bit of a go there. Alright, so this is supposedly a sort of a muscular thing, right? So we're gonna give it some muscles down its length. Yeah, I want to draw, okay. So I don't want to be on these strips. Got some muscles going. We're gonna give it some transverse muscles too. That's too strong. Yeah. There we go. That's better. That gives a little bit of a look. Alright, now let's go to clay strips. I like clay strips for striation, basically. We're actually going to turn on stroke size with the pen. So Phage says, Deborah, I got a question. Recently I have been thinking about some stuff about a creature I have already submitted. Can you explain something about them? And that's been bothering me a bit. really want to update things right now, I'll tell you what. Wait a bit until I'm closing in on the last few subscriptions, and like I'm working on the final, it's not subscriptions, submissions, and I'm working on like the final video. Because then I'll have basically cleared out all of my inboxes, because I have multiple inboxes with submissions. And then send me some corrections, and I'll look over them, and we can kind of discuss what we think we should add or take out or change or whatever. So yeah, that's my recommendation there. So yeah, get some striations here. I want this to be a little bit bigger and I want it to be a little bit stronger. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. That'll be nice. Actually, back out a little. Alright. I need to go from this side. That's a little bit. If not, one you have already made is a. Oh, it's not one that I've already made a model of. I mean, if it was submitted before the submission date, and I don't think that it is violating an already established niche or anything else that's already established, let me know. Although, fair warning, people who have submitted a large number of organisms at this point and who are using like a ecological niche that's already filled in an area where it's already filled, I have started to have to say I don't really have time to make the changes or to have you make the changes that I need. So you know, one or two of your things might not get in. I had to say that to Zord today, or maybe it was yesterday that I said it. But one of his creatures was basically the same thing as Ferox, except it was a bowbird. And I was just like, no. Or actually, I guess it was also a bowbird. It just fed differently. And I was just like, nope, sorry. I've already got basically that exact same idea. And in the same kinds of environment. So, do be warned that that might be the case. But I mean, if I haven't made it yet, I mean, feel free to update the description and whatnot. So, but if I haven't made it, that also means I probably haven't looked at it. And if I haven't looked at it, I have not made a decision as to whether it's getting in. Not that I mean, almost everything has gotten in. I've rejected very few. Most of the time, and rather than rejecting, it's been a, hey, you need to fix something here, or something like that. Very few actual out-and-out rejections. Hey, Dapper, this is from Man. Do you have anything like a planet with continents and an atmosphere with specific elements in it? Yes, the planet all this is taking place on. Yeah, it's all there. Go to the World Animal. I'll let me find the link for that. Second. World Animal. Come on. There we go. So here's the link, but I'll just go over it real quick on the stream if you want. Alright, so Almaisha, it's a planet in the Deep system. It's got moons, it's got an orbiting satellite. It's a human-made thing. It's got species that live there. Okay, pictured Almaisha. For about 470 years ago, the robotic Alcubierre drive-equipped probe Al-Buraq discovered a life-bearing world with macroscopic alien life in 2693. There is no evidence of sapient life, and a human research outpost was put in orbit. It was named Al-Ma'isha in Arabic. In Arabic, it's hard to see because Arabic doesn't scale properly. By its discoverers, while Al-Ma'isha gets only about 80.1% of the light that Earth does per square meter, it is about as warm as Earth due to a thick atmosphere with significant CO2 content. Semi-major axis 0.82 AUs, orbital eccentricity 0.015885, year length 0.796 Earth years, which is 290 3/4 Earth days or 337 local days. Mean orbital velocity 30.67 kilometers per second, orbital inclination 6.302 to the star's equator, axial tilt 25.1 degrees, mass 1.41 Earth masses, radius 1.24 Earth radii, circumference 46,495.8 kilometers, mean density 5.470 grams per cubic centimeter. Tropics within 25.1 degrees of north or south, polar regions above 64.9 degrees north or south, surface gravity 0.917 Gs, or 8.993 meters per second squared. First cosmic velocity 8.14 kilometers per second. Escape velocity 11.51 kilometers per second. Day length 20 hours 47 minutes 2.4 seconds. Hill sphere is at 2.69 Earth radii, or 1,709,764 kilometers. Atmospheric pressure at sea level is 1.2 atmospheres, or 1,292 torr, or 25.0 psi. Atmospheric composition is 0.05% hydrogen, 75.08% nitrogen, 23.1% oxygen, 1.05% argon, 0.05% carbon dioxide, 0.06% krypton, 0.05% xenon, and 0.01 other gases. Atmospheric weight, or average atmospheric weight, is 29.61884716 grams per mole. Bam! Yep, there you go. That's about as much as you could possibly want to know about the planet, other than just a map, which is also available on the World Anvil. In fact, actually, I can just find the map. Where is it? There we go, homepage. Yep, there's the map. Let me just view full size. Boom. Sorry about the weird little bumpy things here. That's because I actually drew this map in Blender on a sphere, and that's the way the sphere unwraps. So, yeah. In my submission for the Eagle Globe, I said that it has chambers that help in respiration, but I don't really explain it too well, so I created a separate document that explained the respiratory system. Like I said, send that to me. Not yet. That's not quite ready for big updates yet. I'm struggling to get through the initial submissions. To make the range of the organisms. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that is now. Of course, the exact details of that are gonna shift a little bit across geological time, but we're not gonna get super into like exact changes in atmospheric composition and whatnot. It's going to be a little bit. There's only so much specificity that you can give people that they can really care about. So we're gonna, be a little bit not as detailed as it's completely possible to be, just for the sake of let's let people just have fun with it and not have to think about oh, what's the molar mass and partial pressure of oxygen at this altitude, whatever. Just go with what you think makes fun and makes sense, and if it seems outlandish, I'll let you know. Yeah, TD Lane, I'm going to be consulting with you and probably Colton too to make sure that the geology actually makes sense. So, yeah. That help is much appreciated. I wonder why I had to go so high on the subdivision counts. Probably because I just didn't have very many vertices at the base. Oh well. I will say one tip I have: if you're making tiny little organisms, right? You want to use real world units in your final render, which you generally should. It's much you end up having things much more realistic, and you can import new things from other scenes. So like when I did my my lore tub model, right? I brought in some wart melons because they live in about the same habitat, and I can just grab them from the scene with wart melons if they're scaled properly, and they'll be to scale. So but if you're going to do that, my recommendation is start with a scale that makes sense for you to work in, and then scale everything up or down to where you need it to be. And then you can apply scales if you need to or whatever, right? Because if I wanted to try and work on this, it was way down like in here, I would have clipping problems. Like I'm in orthographic mode here, or I guess I'm not, but there you go. Like I clipped through. What am I gonna do with that? It's stupid. But yeah. Start at a reasonable scale like I did here, and then shrink it down. There are very few things that you need to do on the model that you have to do at the scale that it's actually going to exist at. Setting up subsurface scattering is one of them. Setting up hair systems is another. But yeah, sculpting, rigging, texture painting, all scale independent. Give me a second. Oh goodness. My best friend's mom sent me a video on Facebook about the vaccine agenda, quote unquote, and I do not know if I have the energy to respond to vaccine nonsense right now. Welcome back, Facial. Like, seriously, I am so tired of vaccine crap. Like, I've just been defriending anti-vaxxers and anti-maskers and all that crap. I'm just like, I do not have the mental energy at this point to start a discussion or be presented with that crap. Because the thing is, you might know this because I did mention it in a video on that I did on homeopathy, which is my only like medical woo video, and there's a reason for that, and I say it in the video, and it's because medical woo legitimately makes me angry in a way creationism does not. Like, okay, so you think that the Earth is 6,000 years old and that Adam rode a dinosaur. I'm like, whatever. It's not going to make you die. It's not even going to really like give you any diseases or, you know, make you more susceptible to heart disease or something like that, right? Like it's stupid, but it's mostly harmless stupid. But medical woo gets people killed. It gets adults, children, the elderly. It scams people. A lot of woo peddlers are actual scammers. Like, by the way, Kenthoven, who sells poison as a cancer cure. I kind of wish he would be arrested for that too, but so far he's been just skirting the law there. But yeah, like I just can't with a lot of this. I'm just like, I have no patience for dealing with this. And the thing is, I don't think this person's mom is actually an anti-vaxxer. Usually when she posts me some random crap, it's like, hey, does any of this make sense? Is this like a thing? And sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. Like, the other day, she sent me something that was like some weird like pandemic conspiracy. And it had a bunch of pictures from like the 1917 Spanish flu outbreak. And I said, well, I mean, those are authentic pictures, but there's no like weird government cover-up thing that's trying to kill everyone with pandemics. Like that's not a thing. It doesn't even make sense. Like, what does the government get out of killing its citizens? The ones who fund it. Now, if you want to take the dark, dim view of the government, you can basically say that the government cares for people the same way a farmer cares for cows, right? They don't actually want the citizenry to be in a bad way because that's how they get their living. So, I mean, even if you take like the worst take on government, right? Like oh, they're basically just here to suckle off the teat of the taxpayer, and that's like which is really basically the worst take you can have that's at all reasonable. Like, I guess you can go the whole, like, satanic conspiracy route, but that's stupid on its own right. So, outside of the weird satanic conspiracy way to think about the government, the absolute worst take you can have as far as how bad they are and what they do is basically that they're social parasites. They are just here to get whatever money. But that still means that they're going to do things that are conducive to people surviving and having money to give them. So, what do you want? And I'm not saying that that's the take I'm taking. I'm going to, like, the maximum extreme, right? The worst the government can rationally be is like that. Yeah, thinking the government usually is thinking that the Chinese government created the virus is stupid. So here's the thing, right? Its mutation rate is entirely consistent with a natural zoonotic event. Essentially, with a virus being in an animal, probably a pangolin who got it from a bat, apparently. Because apparently even closer strains have been found in pangolins recently, and pangolins are frequently consumed in China. They're considered a delicacy. Which, by the way, they're also endangered. So, yeah. That's fun. Anyway, so one of the things is genetically engineered organisms tend to show, if you measure like their mutation rate versus the background of closely related organisms, and you assume that all the genetic changes are due to actual just mutations, genetically engineered organisms will show anomalously high mutation rate for historically, because what you're not actually getting is mutation rate. You're actually noticing the genetic changes, so that are been engineered in there. And the thing is that none of that exists in the SARS-CoV-2 virus. It has an entirely ordinary genome from exactly what you would expect if it was just a virus that happened to turn into one that can infect humans from being one that infected other animals. And all it really takes to get to the point where a virus can do that is having the shape and structure of some of the proteins that it uses to attach to cells slightly change so they have a higher affinity for human cells. And then boom, there you go. Like, it's really a tiny change for most viruses to switch over to be able to infect another host. Now, it's a little unusual in that this particular one is so high affinity, but unusual isn't the same as suspicious, right? Like, high affinity viruses evolve. It's just a thing that happens. Like, what are you gonna do? So yeah, there is literally no reason to think that this virus came from a lab or was created in a laboratory. I guess you could make the argument that it came from a laboratory and that like a laboratory was studying it and then like it infected someone, but there's no evidence that that's the case either. But it's at least there's no evidence against it, whereas there is evidence against the virus as a bioweapon angle. Now, does that make China blameless? Absolutely not, because their initial response to the outbreak was basically denial and arresting people who mentioned it. Like literally, oh, you told us about this big problem, now you're under arrest. Thanks, China. So after weeks of ignoring the problem and pretending it didn't exist, suddenly there was an outbreak that had already spread to foreign countries because, you know, people from Wuhan travel sometimes. So yeah, yeah. Which is also why I'm perfectly fine if you wanted to call it the Chinese virus or the Chinese flu. It's not inaccurate to call it a flu, it's not technically a flu. But I actually do not think that's inappropriate. Because this is a problem that was created for us by the Chinese government. Not by the Chinese people in general, but specifically by the Chinese Communist Party. This crisis would not be here if, or at least not be as severe if they had acted properly from the beginning. So, yeah. You're not gonna hear me saying many good things about the Chinese Communist Party. They're pretty terrible. Yeah. And they're also basically inept. They're just terrible at their jobs. A big part of that is because there's a lot of nepotism. Spoiler alerts, saying you're a communist doesn't actually turn you into some flawless being, no matter what Proudhon might have thought. Yeah, people remain just as selfish and petty and manipulative and evil, and wealth will still concentrate, and power will still be vied for, even in your communist utopia. You'll just be worse at making economic decisions. If only the UN could actually do something to the PRC without them vetoing it. Yeah, well, the UN's basically worthless. I mean, look, they let Saudi Arabia on their Council of Human Rights and on their like Women's Commission. Saudi Arabia, a country where women can't drive, and where the police of vice and virtue, which is a thing in Saudi Arabia, let schoolgirls burn to death because they couldn't get their head coverings on. And so, rather than let them be seen, rather basically than let someone see these young girls' mouths who might be an unrelated male, they just let them die. Yeah. In fact, some reports, and I don't know how accurate these are, but some reports indicated that they were actually some of the girls who tried to escape were forced back into the burning school because they were uncovered. So, yeah. That's the country that the UN was like, oh yeah, sure, you want to be on the commission for, you know, women's rights? Totally. Totally appropriate. No, it's not totally appropriate, it's totally inappropriate. I cannot think of a country that would be worse. I can think of some that might be just as bad, but none that would be worse. I mean, yeah, just absolute worthless organization, in my opinion. Like, oh, but they do some good stuff. I'm like, okay, sure, yeah. I've given to UNICEF, you know, like, there's some good work being done, but it's almost all in, like, the charitable and, like, what do you call it? Like, medical research and stuff. Like, yeah, there's some good research and cooperation going on there. I'll grant you that. But, from the political standpoint of, like, keeping the peace and trying to protect human rights, no. It's just worthless. Trash. Honestly, I'm not okay with much about what Trump says or does, but I will say one thing. I am okay with his idea that maybe the UN doesn't need so much money from the United States for all these stupid peacekeeping missions that they're really crappy at. Yeah, I actually do agree there. I don't think the US needs all that. Or I mean the UN. They're squandering it. That's money that could be spent on NASA or something. Human resources, I don't know. Anything. Just cut from the budget entirely, maybe. So yeah. I am not a huge fan of the UN overall. Like I said, some things are good, but a lot of it is stupid. We had some irregularities. They're a bit too smooth. Organisms are bumpy. They're irregular. They're funny. Not perfect. Oh, this thing is going to be perfectly symmetrical, which is in itself unusual. Alright, let's go back to subtract and add some creases in here. Yeah, so basically these streams are kind of turning into dapper rants about stuff that you guys bring up. Which is okay. I don't mind ranting every once in a while. I mean, they're hardly like, you know, crazy controversial takes that the UN is kind of stupid. I don't think that's like a... Like, oh my god, that's beyond the pale. How could you ever say that about our most holy and glorious United Nations? about Corona since December last year, and I didn't take it seriously until it was a clear global pandemic. Look, I think everyone was in that boat because it wasn't clear how quickly it would spread. Don't worry about that, Lord Leviathans. Hey, if a predator bit off the tail of a Bober descendant like this one, well, would it be a fatal wound for them? Potentially. Very, very possibly. That's actually one of the reasons that bowites have their respiratory system internal. It's still at the posterior end, but basically what would have been the tail now opens into a body cavity that's located more anteriorly than the opening. Just gonna smooth that out a little bit. It was a little harsh transition there. I'm close to calling this one done. I don't know. There's not that much more of the work that I want to do on it. Probably because I'm kind of lazy. And I've been going at this for nearly 2 hours, and kind of tired of doing it. I mean, it's a cool organism, and I think it's looking pretty good. Let's bring back the come on, there we go. The original, what do you call it? Concept. So here's the original concept. And then I think the legs are a little bit spindlier in the original concept, and I kind of like having them thicker because there's no bones in there to support it. It's all just held up by hydrostatic pressure and muscles. So yeah. Okay. So we'll go back to object mode. There we go. Which loses a lot of the definition because I have the preview set low so that it doesn't make my computer cry. Okay, so let's start on some kind of coloration. And first I'm going to see if there's actually anything in here about coloration. So I'm going to set this back to 100. Well, let's get it here. Okay, let's do that's folks like plants, some ways of that's what changed quite a lot in the past 7 years, 470 million years ago. Okay, great. What does that even mean? See, that's the thing. I get stuff like that. I'm just like, I don't even know what's going on there. So that's why there's gonna have to be some kind of a style guide. I'm not saying this is really bad, but Longacrura and Lexels, 2 gonads, yeah, okay. Ecology and habits. Nope, nothing on nothing on color really. But he has it as being blue, so I think we're gonna stick with that. So let's go to look dev. Grab this. We're gonna call this one Longacrura. That's a name that is not sticking in my head, and I do not know why. Alright, so let's give it a little bit of blue tinge. We'll give it some subsurface color that's gonna be tinged. We're gonna give it a lot more roughness. Come on. Oh no, that's kind of roughness. That's more like it. Give it a little bit of subsurface. Yeah. All right. Now, here's a trick that I noticed. If you want to use ambient occlusion in LookDev, you have to turn on Eevee. But the way you get to Eevee is you have to change the render engine and then turn on ambient occlusion. And then you can switch back to cycles and work on cycles with LookDev having that thing developed. The reason I point that out is because I'm probably going to do a pretty simple texture on this, but I want it to have a pre-included ambient occlusion, because that will help set up how I want to do the coloring. What I'm going to do is input ambient occlusion, and I'm going to just check to see how it looks. Pretty subtle effect, so I'm going to turn it up. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm just going to take a math node, switch it to multiply, and then just multiply it by itself. That will basically up the contrast every time I do that. Alright, That's fairly decent contrast. All right, so then what we do is we take this, move it over here, add in a color mix RGB. Okay, we're going to set to multiply. Our top color is actually just going to be this color. Then this is going to go in here. I'm going to set it to clamp just in case. Put this here, and boom. Now that shading, and actually we're just going to see, now I can change how much of that shading is in there. So having that pre-baked in shading basically lets me say, like, the skin is actually darker where there's creases and whatnot. You feel like its legs a spirit animal. Oh, it is. That's true. So yeah, it gives a little bit of sense of depth, and like the skin that's less in the crevice, like it's sort of cleaner or newer because, like, you know, it gets rubbed off every once in a while and has to regrow. So yeah, I like to do that. It just adds a little bit of depth, is pre-baking in some ambient occlusion. You can even see it if I switch to render view. Got this weird light. So let's switch you to a sun. Also switch down to like 3. Nice. And the one thing I like to do is look at the what do you call it? The subsurface scattering from behind with a nice bright sun lamp. So yeah. What? Hold on. What is this? It's like a dark patch. On this side too? Huh. Maybe I just have inconsistent normals at this this level of subdivision. I'm not seeing it much many other places. So yeah, if you notice like around the torso, right? Like around here where I'm moving my cursor, there's not a whole lot of light coming through. If you look here, there's a whole lot more light coming through. And that's because of the subsurface scattering, which is very realistic in terms of actual certain things, like milk has a lot of subsurface scattering, candle wax does, and animal flesh does. However, it's also computatively expensive. It is difficult to calculate the way that the light scatters like that. Yeah, I did answer the thing about the tail. Yeah, it certainly could be. Like, it's going to be a big thing is, like, you know, how much of it being torn off is going to be. Because if it's a little bit, then it's probably not a big deal. But the thing you have to realize is, like, let's say you take a look at a modern animal. Okay, most of them can lose their tail, and it won't be immediately fatal. However, almost any other appendage that you take off entirely off of any animal is going to be the death of that animal in the wild. So, like, you take off like a wild monkey's arm, it's not coming back from that. It's gone now, unless it gets taken into captivity, right? Like, it's just not gonna get away with it. So basically, that just means that rather than having like a head, two arms, and 2 legs that can be removed fatally, bowbird descendants have one other thing: they also can't lose their tail. Is it a disadvantage? Yeah. Is it a huge one? Not really. Not in the grand scheme of things. So I'm gonna go grab a fresh drink, and I'll be right back. And you guys can watch the light slowly filter through this guy. Actually, I'm gonna turn up the light to make it even crazier. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go lamp. I'm just gonna make it like 10. Alright, sorry about that. I am back. Okay, yeah, so you can see how the light's kind of filtering through there. It's pretty sweet. It's just expensive. Actually, that's going to give me an opportunity to adjust the color management. If you want realistic images and you're using Blender, never use the standard view transform. Always use Filmic. It basically simulates a the high dynamic range of a actual film camera. So there's a lot of advantages to doing digital photography. However, sensor clipping is one of the big disadvantages. And there can be a lot of sensor clipping. So, yeah, my recommendation to you is to, if you're going to use Blender, simulate film, because the best photographers still tend to use film. There are a lot of reasons for that. Film can do more than digital can. It's just more expensive. So, if you had the choice to replicate digital film or digital images that were made with a digital camera or film, yeah. What is the top fin used for? So it is used for supplemental gas exchange as well as display for mating. Yep, I had that exact same question, but turns out it was addressed in the what you call it? The submission, the little write-up that the guy who submitted it gave. Sorry, I'm looking over at our the Twitter chat. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. Okay, sorry. Sometimes that's important, and sometimes it's just banter about nonsense. And right now, it's a little bit more of the banter about nonsense. But I have to keep track because who knows what's going to happen. Okay, let's get a normal map. I want a normal map. So what I'm going to do is okay. Sorry. Image editor, new. We're gonna go 2K. Because remember, if we go 2K on this, because we have mirrored normals and we mirrored the sculpting, we're gonna basically get a free 4K image out of this, which is just great. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So we're gonna call this Longacrura. Longacrura? I don't know. Norm. Boom. Okay. Why on the tail have long, elongated bone protrusions instead of a more alligator-like tail? So those aren't bone protrusions, and that's because that is a gill. That's a gill. And I don't know what would be efficient about the alligator tail. This guy doesn't swim. He walks. Trudges along. Walking around. Okay, so let's see. Fake. Normal. There you go. Normals. Fake from multi-res. Drop this down to 8. 16 is nice, but I find my UVs are often too tightly compacted for that. Okay, now I just need to add that image in. So texture. Texture, there we go. Set it to Longacrura. I can't. That word is not like physically capable of sticking into my brain. I don't know what it is. Like my brain just rejects that word outright. Anyway, we're gonna hit bake. All right. So let's see how that's gonna look. So we will add it. So we'll take vector. Normal map, do not use normal. Normal and normal map do not do the same thing. So we'll take a normal map. We are going to plug this guy in there. And, oh, right, I'm gonna save it. Give me a second. I will be right back. I mean, you'll still hear me, but whatever. So I'll just save as Longacrura. No, not in pictures. Come on, save it in the right place. Save as image. Open it. Whatever. Back. Alright, so we're going to switch this to non-color so that it actually functions properly. So, here's what that does for us. Like, let's say I turn this off. Boom. See how a lot of that fine detail just went away? And that's because we've dropped this down. Actually going to drop it down to like 3, right? And we're actually going to do the render quality down to 3 too. So, no normals? Yes, normals. We get all that stuff back. And actually, I might up the strength a little bit, because this is a little on the weak side. So I might just pump it up a little bit. Oh no, he's a wrinkly old man. Not do that. Yeah, I think that'll probably work. Although I don't like how it looks here, so I'm actually might just smudge it out. Is that actually doing anything? Yeah, I guess it is. Why are you like this? Whatever, I'll try to paint it out. Is that even from the normals? No, it's not. It's actually from the mesh. Awesome. That's exactly what I want. Anyway, we also have to put this normal into the ambient occlusion normal here. Otherwise, the ambient occlusion won't know what it's doing. So I'm going to have to fix that when we actually bake out the ambient occlusion map and make it into a diffuse map. So that's kind of annoying, but what are you going to do, right? Okay, so now we don't have to have all that physical data in here. So I'm actually going to go ahead shrink these guys down a little bit. Alright, let's add in a ground plane. Come on. Move the ground plane here. And let's get this thing a test render, right? Why not? Let's see. Butt gill. Yeah, I mean, it's a butt gill. You're not allowed to call it that in actual submissions, but that doesn't mean that's not what it is. Basically, yes, it's a butt gill. All right, so let's take a look. Yeah, we're gonna have to clean up this area around the quote-unquote ribs, but that's not too big of a deal. Overall, I'm actually gonna do another one with like double the samples and with some denoising, but overall, I think it's looking pretty good. So let's render it again with a little bit more samples, and like I said, we'll add some denoising just so we can actually get a reasonably clean image. Denoising is one of the biggest features that Blender 2.8 brought in. Was built-in automatic denoising, and it is like a freaking miracle. Seriously, it's just amazing how much better. Like, you can see the denoise versus undenoised raw render here. Left side of that leg hasn't been denoised, the right side has. The denoiser is it's almost perfect. It only really messes up a lot on glossy materials where it's a bit iffy. Yeah, specular materials is not as good at. It's not always super great at some of these shadowy areas you can see right here, but still, it's just leagues better than no denoising. So yeah, okay, that's looking fairly decent. I might do something like a subsurface amount map where I add in a little bit more subsurface, like say inside the mouth, or like on the frond, but not the tail frond, but like the fin. That might be a thing. But I actually do like the way that the feet actually grow darker as they get closer, and that's actually an artifact of the ambient occlusion. But it doesn't mean I don't like it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the 3D. Oh, always do that. Go back to the 3D viewport. We're gonna. This Alt S. Oh, I was hitting Windows button. There we go. That's the problem. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this just so it no longer intersects the feet. Because if it intersects the feet, well, they'll get like this the part below the plane just won't get any ambient occlusion. So we're gonna do a new image. We're gonna call it Longacrura Faller. Okay. Unfortunately, we're gonna actually have to set this thing to render at the full subdivisions just so we get the accurate ambient occlusion information in there. So that's slightly annoying, but I'm gonna take this normal out here just for now. And we're going to actually set render all the way up to 6. So, not much I can do about that. Let's see. So now I can duplicate this. Set it to color. Okay. Set this, add an emission. That be the thing that it is. Okay, so hopefully that won't be here when let's just set this to 5 and look at it. It's still a little big, but I think it'll be fine if we have it actually bake at 6. Okay, so this might take a bit. Oh, no. I'm doing the wrong thing every time, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. Bad at this game. Alright, set this back down to 8. Yeah, clear image is fine. sRGB, 3 transforms filmic. Yes. Alright. We're gonna actually bake it now. But this is the kind of baking that takes a while. So, sit back, maybe grab a cup of tea. You know, we can talk about what's going on. What's going on with you guys? What are you up to? What have you been up to? What have you been, work's okay, family's okay, you been playing any cool video games, board games, role-playing games, stuff yeah, tell me what's going on. I heard baseball is starting back up, which I don't really care about, except I heard that because they're not going to be allowing people into the stadium to actually watch the game there, they're going to pipe in, play on speakers, crowd noises, so it still sounds like there's people there, which used to be banned, but now it's going to basically be mandatory. So, yeah. It's a weird day we're living in. Day in the metaphorical sense, of course, not in the literal sense. Yeah, the baseball thing is crazy. Like, look, I don't watch baseball. I don't care about baseball. Baseball means next to nothing to me. However, I do find that hilarious. They're just gonna have pretend crowd noises. There's gonna have to be a soundboard guy who just presses the different cheers and boos and whatever. Yeah, it's great. I love that idea. It's so hilarious to me. Maybe it shouldn't be like. I guess I kind of get it, but yeah, it's basically like a laugh track, but for baseball. I have been mostly off the Spec Evo Discord because I started playing D&D. Oh, Paige, you gotta tell me about your character, man. I want to know at least race, class, background, and if you have a subclass that you picked, you gotta tell me that too. We gotta have the details. Give me the deets. Lord of the Violence is going back to school in 2 weeks. I'm not sure how that's going to work with the virus going. Yeah. So that's a good question. So a lot of places, schools are either starting back up or they're gonna be starting back up soon, and it's tough because if they operate the way that they operated, say in 2019, it's not gonna work. Oh, Phage, like I said, I want to know race, class, background. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, bring hand sanitizer with you, wear your mask, try to keep away from people if you can. Like at that point, I would just consider bringing my old SCBA, which is like a scuba thing, except it's not for underwater. I use it for when I was on a firefighting team in the Navy. Like, yeah, that's... I don't know, man. It's kind of rough. Also, do not ever get a good mask seal on your SCBA or scuba gear unless you're pretty darn sure that you have the air valve open on the back of the tank that will actually let air get to the regulator. I've made that mistake. That was fun. I couldn't immediately rip off that helmet, and I had no air. So, yeah. Like, it's not a hard thing to fix. You just reach behind you and turn the valve. But it was a sort of a panic-inducing moment when I realized that literally nothing was coming from my air tank. And I had this mask stuck to my face, and I'm here in this formation during a briefing. We're gonna go fight a pretend fire, because we fought a lot of pretend fires. And I'm like, can't breathe. Yeah. Okay, have no friends and don't talk to anyone. Not much will be different. Oh, Lord of the Python, come on. Look, you're part of a community right here, right now, right? Like, the Fen Discord server is a bunch of people who all like the same kind of stuff. Sure, it's centered around my channel, but that isn't all it is, right? So, yeah. Okay, race, Tiefling, class, Druid, Circle of the Moon, nice. My little story behind this character is that he was adopted by a human couple, but then he ran away because he got sick of having other people? What does it mean, having other people? Of just having them around? Shun his family? Don't get too edgy, man. I'll tell you what, if I have a player who's a bit too edgy... Okay, so there's a stereotype in D&D. It's the edgelord. You know, he's the guy, you walk into the tavern, he's got a hood on. The Mines of, I think it's Phandelver. Is it Phandelver? I thought it was Phandelver. Maybe it's, no, I'm pretty sure it's Phandelver. Anyway, so the edgelord, right? Okay, he's got a dark and tragic past. He sits in the corner of the tavern, sullenly drinking his ale alone. And he doesn't want to go on any adventures. He has to be convinced all the time, and everything's dark and depressing and sad. Okay, don't be that guy. If I find out I have one of those guys in my campaign, my first step. Okay, good. He's not going for the edge. Good. You can have some edge to your characters, right? Like you can have a tragic past, and you can have some degree of emotional detachment, but it can't be so much that it interrupts the flow of the game. So honestly, sometimes if I have a player who's just being way too edgy, I'll do things like say, nope, there's already some guy in a cloak in every corner of the tavern. There aren't any to sit at. You have to sit in the middle of the room. Oh, he's funny, but you're not that funny yourself? Well, that's called practice time. D&D lets you practice social skills that you might not otherwise have a lot of time to practice. And in a situation where it doesn't really matter because everyone's just there to have a game, and everyone's there to already have fun, and no one should be taking it that seriously. And because of that separation between the player and the character, because you're not your character, and your character isn't you, even though a lot of times, just to make communication go smoothly, we use our first person to talk about it. We'll say things like, oh, I go up and check the door. But you know that that's not you. That's the character you're playing. That sense of separation really helps with letting people kind of let down their social barriers and just be more free to have fun,
tell jokes, and stuff like that. And I think that that's a valuable thing about tabletop role-playing games. So that's actually, I think, one of my favorite things about them is that I've seen actual people grow as people as a result of having fun playing tabletop role-playing games. I've seen people who were socially awkward become much less so, see people come out of their shells, get a better sense of humor, learn to relax a little bit, you know. So, yeah, tabletop role-playing games are really important for that reason. I think they are overall a boon to society, and I highly encourage anyone who hasn't already played a tabletop role-playing game, go find one and join. I can almost guarantee that if you find a group, they will be willing to show you how to play. If it's too full, then okay, maybe that won't happen with that particular group, but they can probably direct you to other groups. Although I will say, do watch out. There are some toxic groups and groups where the dynamic is just it's just not great. So you'll get things where, like, you'll have DMs or GMs or storytellers or whatever your system is calling them, guy running the game. And I say guy, but I mean, it is no the stereotype that those are just for you know, neckbeardy men in the basement is no longer true. Anyway, like you'll find some groups where, like, the DM likes to railroad the group, or he'll kill off PCs because he doesn't like your perfectly acceptable character choice. So do watch out for that. But as a rule, if you look and find a group, you'll probably have a fun time. Just bear in mind that if it doesn't go well, it might have just been that group and not the game. Maybe take a break and come back to a different group and see if that works out. Because so most players approach the game, as they should, with the idea that, hey, I'm going to cooperate with the rest of my party to go have an adventure, whatever that is. And most DMs come to the table with, I'm going to make a fun scenario for my players to encounter. The DM shouldn't be there to kill off the PCs, or to make them fail at every turn, or to railroad them into whatever plot he has devised. Like, look, if you have a specific story that you want to tell that goes in a particular way, don't do it in D&D. Write a book. Or just a short story. I'm glad you like your DM. That's really important. The DM... So I'm sort of a perpetual DM. I can't remember the last time I was actually able to just play a character. Ooh, look at that. Okay, so let's see what happens when I take this and plop it in here. Oh yeah, and switch the output to this guy. Alright, actually, yeah, that does clear up a lot of it. I'm still gonna have to do a little bit of fixing here and there, because, like, I don't know, there's weird inconsistent normals here. But, yeah, no, overall, that worked out pretty well, I think. Yeah. Like I said, yeah, there's gonna have to be some cleanup here and there, but overall, it's pretty good. Alright, so, so we're going to go into texture paint mode on this guy. Texture paint. All right, here we go. There we go. Yeah, I like darkened up the souls a lot. I like that. Okay. So, wait, where the things go? Okay, let me see what's going on here. Preview should be down to 3. Oh, I guess that those weird holes disappeared. I'm okay with this. And actually, does it even really need much cleanup? I think it might actually just kind of work. Okay, cool. All right, so that's actually gonna work. I'm just gonna leave it. It was not even gonna texture paint. I don't even care. All right, sure, whatever. Take it. Okay, so here's the next thing we're going to do. We're actually going to make it so that it's a little bit more glossy in the darker areas, and we're just going to use the same texture to drive it, but we're going to get rid of the color data here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a color hue saturation, right? And this is just me looking at it, like we're not actually using this, right? So this is the hue saturation data that we have now. We take the saturation, boom, down to 0. Now it's black and white. Okay. Now I'm going to take a converter color ramp right here. Grab that. And this is because I don't want this flag to be that low. I want it to basically be about what our roughness value is here. So I'm going to copy that, paste this in here. Oh, actually, I just put it in here, put it in the value. There you go. You gotta remember how the different ways to define color, because Blender will let you choose color based on a color wheel. Come on, let me pull up the color wheel. Oh, here, yeah, I gotta click this. So you got a value slider here and a color wheel. You can also manually input hue saturation value numbers, and you can also put in straight up hex, and you can do RGB values with an alpha if you need to. I mean, they look like that mostly because they're bowbirds. So get that saturation down here. Value doesn't really matter. So I'm also going to take this. It's not going to go so far down as actual black. So we're going to add that in, and we're going to put that in the roughness section. And then we're going to switch back to here. And actually, that's a little bit too glossy, so we're going to bring that up a little bit. Oh, you know what the problem is? I have this. I should have this reversed. Let's do that. Okay, yeah. So now the deeper parts are the glossy parts, and they're actually still a little bit too glossy. So we're gonna come up on this is what I need to do. Yeah, there we go. So yeah. So now, like the inside of the mouth, near the eyes, stuff like that, it'll be a little bit more glossy. Yeah. Okay. The other big thing is I do actually think we need to texture paint these. What do you call these? These guys need to be not blue. Basically, is what I'm saying. But I might switch over to GIMP to do that. Which is kind of annoying, but that's okay. Okay, so switch this to the UV editor. Face select. Okay, so that's where that is. Oh yeah, they're both on the same side, obviously, because how could they not be? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up GIMP. Yeah, I mean, they're tusks. They're tusk-like. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. All right, I'll be right. Well, the screen will be right back. This folder. Switch to icons. All right, what is this? Longacrura. Yeah, I still can't remember that name. Longacrura's normal. Not save it. I guess I didn't save it yet. Alright, well, we'll save it now. Image, save as. It's the correct place. Call. Okay, save. That's image. Back to GIMP. Open. Right folder. Under. Longacrura color. There we go. Alright. What up? Gliding tree frogs, or should I make gliding lizards? I mean, the tree frog is probably more like unique, I guess. But I mean, okay. So we're going to duplicate this layer, and then we're going to go into colors, and I'm going to do hue saturation. So actually, no, that's not what I actually want. color temperature might actually work. The original temperature is actually pretty cold. My desired temperature is it's probably about right. We're gonna go colors. I'm gonna do saturation. We're gonna bring the saturation down there a bit. Yeah, that's about what I want. All right, and then we're gonna, let's see. Let's up the contrast. So we'll go back to colors, brightness, contrast. Go. Drop the contrast, the brightness down a little bit. Up, contrast, just a touch. Okay. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're actually gonna add a, let's see, add a layer mask. Full transparency. And then we're gonna grab, I don't know why that's not set to yellow. Oh, I do remember now. It's because of the thumbnail for Can't Bet. All right, so with the layer mask set to active, I'm gonna grab this guy here and yeah, repaint a little bit. Touch here. So this, when I save over the original file, you'll see in just a second how it'll improve by giving me a new color. So let's see. Come on. There we go. All right, awesome. Yeah, all right, so file, export, overwrite Longacrura.call. Nice. We'll back over here, and then I'm gonna go away again just quick. I'm gonna have to reopen the image. Sorry. Open it. Come on. Open. Go. Longacrura. I'm sorry, I remember it. Longacrura, whatever. Alright. So, now the tip. Oh, that's right. That's because the tip is this other little island here. Oh, sorry. Turn this back on. Yeah, the tip is this little tiny island that I forgot I made as a tiny little island, so it didn't quite take there. So I'm just gonna switch back over here. Erase the thing there. Overwrite again, and it should be fine. I'm not gonna switch it over right now. Just leave it. It's fine. But yeah, see now I have recolored it, but I had to go over to GIMP because that allowed me to keep all that shading data from the what do you call it? The ambient occlusion. Man, I'm not used to talking this much while I do this. This is weird to me. Like this is unusual. I don't normally do this. So okay, let's get another test render in. I'm gonna shrink you down to size. Add back in that. Keep adding planes. I need to stop randomly adding planes. Also, get back to world origin. There we go. Okay. Let's give it a little bit of a brown color, just because why not? Let's call it ground. Actually, I'll just hold on to this plane. I'll move it into a new collection. I'll call it ground. There you go. Cool. Okay. We'll make it a little bit of a brownish color. Look at that, brown. Welcome back, Phage. All right, so yeah, let's just do a test render. Go to the image editor. Go back to render result. This is what we got last time. We'll switch it over to slot 2 and render, so we can switch between those two slots and see the direct comparison, apples to apples, if you will. So apples to oranges. Which always confused me. Like, you can compare apples and oranges, right? Like, this apple is ripe, this orange is not. This orange is sweeter than that apple. It should really be more like, you can't compare, like, I don't know, apples and rockets. Because, yeah, I have no idea how I would compare. I mean, I guess you can compare their weight, like, whatever. But like they have almost nothing in common other than that they exist as physical objects. So yeah, apples apples and oranges are way too similar. You can compare those. Alright. It's a little bit too shiny. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it too shiny? I'm thinking it's too shiny, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Let's look at how it was before. It's definitely better color. It's definitely got more well-defined. Like, these rib areas are much better defined. These little tusk things look like tusks. They actually kind of look scary. Like, I wouldn't want to meet that thing in a dark alley, although it's way too tiny. Yeah. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about adding some, or subtracting away some of the shininess. It's fairly shiny there, but I don't know. You guys are getting some input on the artistic side. Oh, someone mentioned me in a comment about Kent Hovind on oh, come on, where did it go? I hate that when you, or this is, Facebook does that? Oh, goodness. Oh, here it is. You don't get just how the predicted no, but the Bible did predict that scoffers would come along in the last days of God's, especially putting their imaginations. Oh. Yeah. Except predictions do not equal imaginations. Someone set out to find a STEM tetrapod, used evolution to know where to look, and then he found it. If there were any truth to younger creationism, y'all would be able to do not only the same thing, but do it better than those who know that evolution is. Boom. Replied. Take that, Facebook guy. Shininess would make sense if it looks a tiny bit like a toy. Yeah, it's got a bit of a plasticky feel. That's one of the things I'm worried about. But I'm going to do a subdermal map that should help a little bit with that. So yeah, that keyboard isn't that keyboard nice? I love this keyboard. I paid a little bit more than I probably should have for a keyboard, but like, it's got the LED backlights to change color. It's got the nice clickety clackety. Yeah, it's too shiny. It looks plasticky. If it's too shiny, it looks like plastic. So yeah, no shine. If I want to do a shine, I will do what's called a clear coat. Like, actually, I could do that. Give me a second. I'm gonna actually do that. So go to 3D viewport. All right. So we're actually gonna grab this guy. So we're gonna up. So this is at what value? 595. So we can't bring this beyond 595. It's already really close to. So I guess what I'm going to just do is up this a little bit. Up this a little bit. 6, 7 to, what are you at? Let's bring it up a little bit more. Alright. But then what I can do, right, is I can, so we'll duplicate this. Right? We're going to pump the same thing in here, color. Turn it down to like 0.5. Okay. Check this out. I'm going to put it in the clear coat. Okay. Clear coat roughness is going to stay pretty low. And then add a clear coat. And now it'll actually look like it's covered in mucus if I hit render again. So we're going to go back to the image editor. So that's the one that looked a little bit too much like a plastic toy. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to slot 3, render an image, and then see who's bothering. I might actually have to go. I think I have to take a phone call. So, okay. Yeah, I like that. That clear coat really, I think the clear coat sells it. Yeah, that's probably where it's going to be. So I am going to do a subdermal map, probably off air, unfortunately, because I think I have to take a call. Yeah, no, I think we can go back to slot 2. It's really shiny and weird. I'm going to slot 3, and it's not shiny, but there's a little bit of sheen here and there. That's because it's actually covered in something. So, unfortunately, ladies and gents, or other assorted tetrapods, I'm not even sure. Does everyone here identify as a tetrapod? Actually, I don't care. I stopped caring. I'll talk to you later. I have to take I technically have to make a call, but it's because I'm saying, hold on, don't call. I gotta wrap up. So, I hope all of you have a wonderful Wednesday. I think it is. Yeah, Wednesday. Look out for Noah Zookeeper, the movie, coming to you tomorrow starting at 5 Eastern. It's like 2 hours, so strap in. It's going to be a long thing. You'll want to get a snack and beverages. And you might even want to just have a meal. So, there you go. Have a nice day. Bye, everybody.